Good Voch Raboisai. Welcome to all the guests. Wow, there's a bunch of them. I'm not going to call anybody out tonight. Shalom, what's your name? Talbaum? Woo! Shalom Aleichem. Finer? From?
Brooklyn.
What's your first name? Rob Finer from Brooklyn. Related to the other Finers here? The doctor, the dentist? Brother? Cousin, okay, very nice. Shalom Aleichem, welcome. What's your name? Gabriel Kramer. Related to the Kramers here in the Shir?
No.
Okay, good. Hi, Rebelli. This is the email I promised to read, but he just sent me another email to explain, and he asked me not to read his name. Shame. I just want you to know that I'm on the verge of a huge life-changing slide due to the daf. I'm 21 years old in the Mir, and I just flew back to America. I made fun of him. He said, he wrote to me that he flew back for his brother's wedding. Good excuse. I'm so addicted to the daf that I learned for 6 hours on the plane. Not 6 daf, 6 hours. Catching up on my katan because I started a daf Yud Ches. So he went from the beginning. It's just been 3 weeks of pureness, fulfillment, and feeling good about myself. When I say life-changing, you don't mean going from not doing anything to all of a sudden learning. I'm what people call a regular yeshiva bacher in Moshe Aaron Friedman Shir. A huge thank you to you for spreading the way you spread. I'm not going to read his name. Okay, shkoyach. Few pictures here. We have a picture of the Siyum Cotton by the Chevra in North Miami Beach. This, I don't know, it came without a name. I had a name, but I forgot his name. I'll show him anyway. Maybe Nehemiah. Nehemiah, you're here? Where's Nehemiah? Anyway, somebody learning the daf. And of course, I have to show the Brooklyn Siyum again. Why not? The Brooklyn, they made a Siyum in Brooklyn. If somebody has a piece of tape, I'll tape it up right over here. Here, the Brooklyn daf. Until it falls up, we'll put it over here. You're from Brooklyn, no?
I'm from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn! You know what? Here's a gift. Whatever, okay. It's for you. Next time you show up there, look at this thing, Rabbi Sai. They took a kid, they morphed his face a little bit. He says, when I'm 100, I'll be retired and I'll study the daf and I'll have 100 kids. I will live in Teaneck. Here's a picture of my son by Dr. Zachary Barak. Okay, he's only 4 years old. Yeshiva Waterbury Siyum Amayit Cotton Sher Brachas for Abish Gelb. Abish was being Messiah. Here's the Chassan himself, and here's a picture of the Siyum in Montreal. See, we're getting there. We'll eventually finish all the Siyumim. Siyum MDY Siyum in Montreal. Abi, there's a seat for you over here. Hillel Iferman, a Talmud of mine and a senior in Henk High School, who took on Chagigah, H-A-N-C. Chagigah with some other Talmud. What is that?
Hebrew Academy, Nassau County.
Nassau County. He's listening. You can see that he has his ear pods in. He's listening to the shir on the way to school. One of his friends took the picture without him knowing at the time. You have Bitzchusim Judah Holkauer. Here he is, learning. Was noch? This one we'll skip for now. I think this is the last one, almost. There's a bunch of guys. They work in City Book here in Yerushalayim. So Yisrael Meir Silva said, I told you Matzah Shabbos, we had 6 guys in Yerushalayim City Book learning the Daf Yomi. You said we need to get more. We have successfully signed up another 2 guys for Chagigah and hope to get more for Yavamis. In the picture attached, we have Alan Blecher, David Wright, Gad Carlos from here. He's probably here. Is that Mike? Interesting. Yeah. Somebody's blocking. Okay. Whoever, you guys in the front, you have to just be careful not to be in the shot. Who else do we have? Neri Levin. If somebody's blocking outside, so please move your car. Thank you. Now picture our Shachar Bashan and Tzvi Kraus and Moshe Ben Avram. Here it is, City Book. And finally, Chaim Peretz Levin putting up a sign in Gourmet Glad in the 5 towns. You can get your free Gemara. He's busy all day long with free Gemaras. Givaldik. The koil is sponsored by Mr. Anonymous Lili Nishmas Chaya Bas Yosef for the whole month. Maseches Chagigah is dedicated by the Kessler and Davis families. Refuah shleima for Miriam Esther Bas Devora bikarov. As zechus for Rafael, Shlomo ben Lifsha and Rivka Bas Gila, they should be zoche to Zera Shel Kayama bekorov. And the MDY Family, we lost, if you're new here, we lost one of our own, a 40-something-year-old. He was our graphic designer. Here, in this picture, you can see, in Gourmet Glatt, he designed this. And all the way in the bottom it says, designed by Yidi Leibowitz Z. Yidi Leibowitz. It says on the bottom right here. Anyway, so we say every day for the Shleishim, Reb Shalom Baruch, יודא, Zechus Baruch ben Rav Yosef, Yחיאל Michal, Reb Yidi Leibowitz. And Barak Baver, Lila Nishmas, my brother, Rafael Uriah ben Sarah on his 5th yahrzeit. Barak, I didn't know that. Shtickle partner. Nosson Breskin, Lila Nishmas, Morris Leah, Bas, Morris Leah Bracha, Bas Rav Moshe, Leah Shalom yahrzeit, for my mother, 3rd yahrzeit. Shmuel Babich. Happy birthday, fellow MDYers and PWC alumni. Josh Heshing, Daniel. Oh no, I have to read a whole list of names now. Skilowitz and also Harry Erreich. While we all live in different cities, may the learning of the Daf via MDY keep us connected. Asher Lang, L'zech Nishma Hasitzchok Moshe ben Michal on his 1st yahrzeit, Tes Adar. Once I'm on my WhatsApp, I might as well just read all the other messages I got here now. Interesting. Tomer, what do you want, Tomer? What? For shleima 4? I don't know. Okay. Shkoyach. Who's that? Oh, that's right. That's right. But I don't have the picture, so remind me. I'll print it out tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem. What's his name? Shmuel Nachman ben Rus, who was at the shir last week in Ranana, and he's ill in the hospital. But the only thing he took, I have to bring the picture. The only thing he took with him when they rushed into the hospital was the Gemara. He wanted to do the Daf Yomi. Okay. So, today is Daf Yud, and we're holding maybe 10 lines from the bottom. Reb Shimon ben Menashe Omer, Ezu Mu'uves Lo Yuchal Liskoin, Zabala Erva, V'hoilid Mimena Mamzer. There's certain things that a person does in this world that Daf Amud Beis that you can't fix. There's no way out of it. And the Mishnah says, for instance, if somebody has relations with the Eishes Ish and he has a mamzer, so even if he does tshuva, it's not going to really work because he left a mark in this world that he can't undo. So the Gemara asks, Hoylid in, loy hoylid loy. What if he didn't have a mamzer? If a person is a ganav, he steals something, steals something from a store. I was in a candy store once and the guy told me that like a 25-year-old came in, he said, listen, I stole a lot of candy here when I was a kid, and he dumped off a bunch of money. He said, I want to do tshuva. So you could do tshuva, it's not a problem. If you do gzela, same thing as gneva, just one is in the day, one is at night. You can fix it. Here's the point. If a person has, I didn't do the sponsors, that's what this thing was. Okay. Shkoyach. Gotta do sponsors. I apologize. So, by the way, when you see these sponsorships, when you watch it on YouTube, it's going to be before I start this year. Miraculously, the guy that reminded me, he's going to put it there. No, you'll leave it there. All right, so here we are in the middle of the sugya. Amazing. If a person has relations with the Eishes Ish, and because of those relations, now she's also to her husband, so that's the mark. That's the terrible thing. Just like having a mamzer is a mark that's left in this world, this mark is that now she has to get divorced from her husband. So why do you need to have a mamzer in order not to have tshuva? If a person answers the husband to the wife, then that's it. So we already said yesterday that there's a little bit of tshuva that you can do. You can do tshuva for everything. You could even do tshuva for Reish Sish. But in this case, because he left a mark, so there's going to be a lot of Gehenim, says the Marsha, but there will be Olam Haba. At the end of the day, the tshuva does work. Reb Shimon ben Yochai Omer, we're still in the middle of a question. The question is, why does the Mishnah say that he had a mamzer? Even without a mamzer, there's ways to be over an avera and leave a real mark. Reb Shimon ben Yochai Omer, Ein Omer Bakru Gomol, Bakru Chazir. This gives us a little explanation of the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, at the end of the Mishnah, it says, Mu'uvas lo yuchal liskoin. It's crooked, you can't straighten it out. So the Mishnah, what does that mean? Comes Reb Shimon bar Yochai and says, well, you have to be straight in order to get crooked. You can't be crooked to begin with and be, what does it mean? So he explains. Nobody ever comes to Beis Hamikdash with a pig and says, oh, check, make sure this pig doesn't have any mumim. And then only afterwards they'll say, well, it's also a pig. Nobody comes with a camel. What's the point? If you're already crooked, you're already a pig, you're already a camel, it doesn't even start. You're not in the game. Elo bakru tala. You have to be in the game. If you're in the game, you're a sheep. Now we're going to check, are you a kosher sheep? And if you're a kosher sheep, okay. So that's what it means over here also. If a person says, if a person is straight, he's a Talmud Chacham, and then he went crooked, okay, now it makes sense. It's mu'uvas lo yuchal liskoin. That's crookedness that you can't fix. But if a guy was crooked to begin with, he's a pig, and then he added on to that another crookedness, no, so he's a crooked pig. No, we're not talking about that. Fine. So we continue. It's still in the middle of the question. Like a bird who distanced himself from its nest. Person who's learning Torah and distanced himself. By the way, stop, because I know you guys are very interested like I am. Birds, very, very interesting creatures. Some of them travel over 10,000 miles. But what's interesting is that when they get to their destination, they could go to the same hole in the house, in the attic, that they were last year. They have this internal GPS. Some of them fly at flight level 37,000 feet. It's crazy stuff. Very interesting stuff, these tzipor nededes. And here's a big one that I didn't know about. There's a bird that flies for 10 months straight without landing. Anybody ever know that? 10 months. You see them here, the swifts. They could go for 10 months straight because they eat in the air and they sleep for 10 seconds at a time. And 10 months straight. Okay, anyway. I just thought I'll throw that out. I haven't been in the safari for a long time. I got to share with Olam. What did your forefathers see in me? Hashem says. What's wrong with me? The bottom line is, here we're at the question. Still the same question. Why does the Mishnah say there's a mamzer? Even without a mamzer, a person could do something to distance a husband and wife, and the aver is so strong that it's mu'uvas lo yuchal liskoin, you can't fix it. Like Hashi. So Gemara gives us three answers very similar. If a person has relations with his own sister, you can do tshuva on that. Unless she bears a mamzer. But Eishes Ish, even without a mamzer, since she has to separate from her husband, it's too late. No, both cases, I can give you a case of Eishes Ish that is, it's not a muvas lo yuchal liskoin. But like Ashia, kam ba'oines, kam beratzain. If he forced the woman, so his aver is great, but she could stay with her husband. So if she could stay with her husband, it's not a muvas lo yuchal liskoin. So the only muvas lo yuchal liskoin is if they have a mamzer. If there's a mamzer, it's not her fault. She didn't have anything to do with this. But he will never be able to do tshuva. But listen to this, if a guy was ma'anas a woman, it was against her will, he can do tshuva because it's not an aver that leaves a mark. There's no mamzer, and she's mutter to her husband, so he can do full tshuva. She had nothing to do with it. He forced it. If he forced a kayan, a kayanes, a wife of a kayan, then that's a muvas lo yuchal liskoin, because a kayan cannot get back with his wife even if it was forced, but Yisrael can, and that's the difference. So to explain the pasuk, If a person is used to learning Mishnah, and he goes and he learns Chumash, Shuvein Lishalom. In other words, this person, it's okay for him to learn Mishnah. He's on a level, he does Mishnayos. But to drop a level, to go to Psukim, only Torah, Shuvein Lishalom. He doesn't have peace. Why? Because he'll never be able to get to the bottom of a halacha. You can't get to halacha just by reading Chumash. You need Mishnah for that. If a person's doing Gemara, he's Daf Yomi, and he goes and he does Mishnah. Interesting, we had a guy here that lives in this neighborhood. I asked him, why don't you come to the Daf anymore? He says, I do Tanakh. He says, Mamish is Gemara. He stopped doing Gemara, he went to Tanakh. It's okay. For him it was okay, for whatever reason. So, if you go from Talmud, from Gemara to Mishnah, also not good. Now don't forget, there's a big thing, big Indian learning Mishnayos, Mishnah Yomi, all the things, there's something to it, obviously. You have to learn Mishnah. I forgot who says it. I don't know, it's not the Zohar, but somebody, I saw it today, but I forgot, that, I know it is. The Maggid told the Beis Yosef, the famous Maggid, is like a Malach that learned with the Beis Yosef, the one who wrote the Shulchan Aruch. He told him, if you learn Mishnah, you should say Mishnah, you know it well, you have Giluyim in all of Torah, and all of Shas and everything. So obviously it's huge to learn Mishnah. But the point is, if you go from Mishnah, from Gemara, downgrade, so to speak, to Mishnah, where you're not going to have the Chesuri Mechseres, says Rashi, all these things that we like, what's going on here? Or, who is this Mishnah like? So and so. The Mishnah is missing a few words like that. All the things that the Gemara brings us in the Mishnah, if you don't have that, you don't have a pure Mishnah. Today, with all the explanations and the art scrolls and this and that, you might have something close to that. So Rashi says, Shas l'Shas, we have two Shas, and we have Bavli and Yerushalmi. Rashi says it's going from Yerushalmi to Bavli, that's a downgrade. Going to what we learn. Tosfos argues is the opposite, but one Pshat in Tosfos means going either direction. If you're used to doing Yerushalmi, you go to Bavli, or Bavli Yerushalmi, Ein Lishalom. No peace. Tomer, what's your brother's name? The anonymous Mishnah is sponsored by, I have to go back to the next Mishnah. I'm not going back to my phone. Either he's going to tell me his name or I missed it. What's his name? Come on, somebody. Here it is. Latzlocha Gashmi, Menachem ben Tamar. Tomer, okay, fine. Heter Nedarim Parchim Baver, says the Mishnah. The official Mishnah. Heter Nedarim Parchim Baver, Velem al Mashi Yismuchu. It's a very interesting Mishnah. We talk about it a lot through Shas, and here's the one of the Mekayros. And that is that what we learn, a lot of what we learn, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the entire Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, including Shas. That's a given. Gave him Shas. What did he give him? What didn't he give him? How much is in the actual Torah? How much did he give him Baal Peh? And then we have all the machlokes. They said like this, they say like that. But all Zera Shabbos, all these things are all HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Moshe Rabbeinu. Says the Mishnah that we know that if a person makes a neder, a guy says he's not going to sleep for 2 days, makes a neder, he could go to the Rav, and the Rav could be materit. That heter, that a Rav could be materit, where does it say it in the Torah? Doesn't say it anywhere. Parchim Baver, something that flies around the ear. Ve'ein lohem al ma sheyismechu. Now, Stam Yidi Ba'alma, as we're going to see in the Gemara, there's two things going on when it comes to neder. When I want to get somebody makes a neder and it comes to a rabbi, you could do it in front of 3 people. It could be 3 laymen. And we just had this week somebody come to the kollel and he said he's going on a trip. He's mekal himself to learn a certain amount of Torah every day. He wants Hataras Nadarim, and I'm like, don't do it for him. No, we give it to him. So what do you do? So you need 2 things. You need charata. The guy has to say, if I would have known, I wouldn't have done the neder. And a petach. You need an opening. You have to give him an excuse out. So what they do is, they do both. They say, do you regret making the neder? He says, yeah. Okay. And if you would know that you would regret it, would you make the neder? That's the opening. That's a petach. You say like, typical petach is, if you have known that you make the neder, you'd lose $1 million, you do it. Okay, so now you just use the same thing. You say, do you have charata? Yeah. And if you know that you have charata, would you make the neder to begin with? No? Okay, that's a petach and a charata. And mutalach, and you're allowed to go on. How do you know this idea? It's parchas ba'aver, flies in the air. They can't lean on something strong. There's no great source in the Torah. Hilchas Shabbos, and the Gemara is going to explain all of this. Hilchas Shabbos, some of the halachas are not concrete chagigahs. The reason why this whole Mishnah appears here in our Masechta is because of this word chagigahs. I had a lot of, I know, where's my son? He's not here. The other one. Yeah, my older one. He for sure knew. But even my 11-year-old, I asked him, how many korbanos do you bring? He rattled it off. More than the Mir guys. Shami Chagigah, Simcha, Shami Simcha. Okay. So the idea of Chagigah, and we're going to see in the Gemara, why is it not in the Torah? Yes, in the Torah. V'ami'ilais. When you use something that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, you have to bring a karban, you pay a little bit more, you pay a fifth. Hareim ka'arorim hatluyim b'sa'ara. They're like a mountain, I have a picture, that's hanging by a hair. Here you go. One hair. Famous. So now we're going to have one. A lot of what we're going to do tonight is figure out why are these things like a mountain, tremendous amount of halachas. Is the Bamba kid? It's upside down, you can't tell who it is. Is it? Not really. Yeah, it's more than that. Anyway. Motzei Shabbos, Gary wakes up. He's tremendous aura. You strike for the aura, Gary. I appreciate it. The guy's in London. Punch in London. He knows the snacks. By the way, the only snack you find on a trail in Switzerland is bamba. The place is pristine, it's clean. Bamba and Bisley once in a while. Fine. These are halachas of Shabbos. They hang on a thread. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah. The what? Shei mikra muat, very small part in the Torah and the pasuk. Halachas meruvas, many halachas. Hadinin, halachas that have to do with mamanis. Va'avodos, and how you do the avodah in the Beis Hamikdash. Ataharos, v'atmeos, v'atmeos, v'arayos, and arayos. Yesh lehem amashi yismechu. They have serious support in the Torah. V'hein gufei Torah. And these are the real Torah. Now, what's these? So the Gemara is going to tell us at the end. It doesn't sound like it, but the Gemara is going to tell us it's the entire Mishnah. You think it's the last things, the last few words of the Mishnah. No, it's everything. Says the Gemara. Tanya. We have people that argue with the Mishnah. 5 of them. Rebbe Eliezer Oimer Yesh Lohem Amash Yismechu. Shalom Aleichem. I hope they don't show that on YouTube. In the middle of a serious share here, we have guests never coming back. We have 5 things. The reason why I printed it is because the Gemara is going to argue and slug up each one besides the last one. And the Gemara doesn't really say what it just says. The Gemara is going to say Rebbe Eliezer. And you have to know what Rebbe Eliezer says. Rebbe Yeshua. Okay? So here it is. I'm just going to hold this up now. This idea of heter nedarim, if somebody makes a neder, I could undo it. It's in the Torah. Shenemar kiyafli shtei pamim. So I put kiyafli. Where does it say kiyafli? Interesting. It says once by Erechin and once by a Nazir. Ish kiyafli. And it says yafli a second time. And if you look in the Targum over there, yafli means arei yifaresh. If a person is mefarish, he says very, very clear what he wants to say. So the reason why the Torah says hafla twice, yafli twice, once is achaz hafla le'isur. One is to say that a person said a neder with his mouth. V'achaz hafla le'heter. The second time is to say that I could undo it. So ki yafli. Reb Shua Omer yesh lehem amash yismechu shenemar asher nishbati ba'api. We say it in Kabbalah Shabbos. Asher nishbati ba'api. What does it mean? HaKadosh Baruch was saying, I swore about the people in the Midbar that they're not going to come into Eretz Yisrael, they're not going to survive the desert. and he's saying, I did it out of anger. I did it in anger, in a state of anger. That, Rashi says, is called a petach. It's an opening. The reason why I made a neder is because I was angry. If I wasn't angry, I wouldn't do it. Now, I'm taking it back. The Gemara is going to talk about it. Did he take it back? Didn't take it back? So it seems like from Asher Nishbati Ba'api, Nishbati. Ba'api, I should have maybe wrote Asher Nishbati. Fine, that's good. Asher Nishbati. I have a way out of it. By the way, Stam in our days, a guy tells his friend, I'm coming to your wedding. Is that a neder or not a neder? I'll come to your wedding. I'll come to your wedding. It's a neder. And you have to ask him a chila if you don't want to come to the neder. Chaim Kanevsky passes like that. Huh? Lo yachal Devora, he says. Yeah. No, so if you say b'li neder, shalom aleichem. You say b'li neder, that's how you get out of it. But most people don't say b'li neder, and it becomes like a neder. I'm coming to your wedding. Is that my phone? I hope. No, it's my chavrusa. Hi, I'm middle of a shir. Yo, what's going on? You want to? Should I stop the shir now? Okay, I gotta go. Bye. Some sugar thing. You take it, shut it off or something. Okay, thanks. Okay, Nishbati v'Kayama. Where am I? Asher Nishbati v'Api Nishbati v'Chazarti bi. Rav Yitzchak Oimer Yesh L'Mamash Yismechu. Not like the Mishnah says that Heter Nedarim is there's nothing. Yesh L'Mamash Yismechu. Shenemar Kol Nediv Liboy. It's in his heart. So as long as it's in his heart, but if it's not in his heart, people gave money to the Beis Hamikdash because they had it in their heart. If they don't have it in the heart, that's called, Rashi says, this is the idea of charata. It's not in my heart anymore. I don't want to bring it. If he feels like it, he could make it happen. I swore, and I'm going to fulfill my shvuah. If not, not. Nishbati v'kayema lishma. Nobody wants to sing? Okay, weiter. I don't care. I'm just singing it because in Yivamis it's going to be Zera Reuven Shimon Levi v'Yehuda. Whatever. I don't know. It's not. There's no songs for 4 months. You don't want to sing? Fine. So I don't want to sing either. Shenem nishbati v'kayema lishma mishpatei tzidkecha. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Ihavi Hasam, Amar Lahu, Didi Adifim Minay, Mididchu. Shmuel comes along. He's a later generation. He's an Amoira. He says, my pshat is better than all of yours. Shenemar, Lo Yachel Devoroi. Don't put down your words. Don't profane your words. Hu Einu Moichel. He cannot profane. Aval Acher Moichel Eloi. Others can. He himself, he has to stick to his words, but Rabbanim could come along, or even 3 people come along and undo. Amar Rava. I'm going to tell you he's right. He's the only one that we don't have a good question against. What did Rabbi Eliezer say? Look over here, Kiafli, twice. Maybe it goes like Reb Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda that sent the name of Rabbi Tarfon. The Sanya. Look at this, Rabbi say, oh, today is all about cartoons. There's a guy walking by with long hair. Another guy holds himself chashiv. He actually learns the daf. He's holding a nazir here. He says, that guy, he looks to me like a nazir. The reason why he has long hair, he's a nazir. His friend says, no, he's not a nazir. So they argue. And they say, okay, each one says, if he's a nazir, I'll be a nazir. The other guy says, if he's not a nazir, I'll be a nazir. But kids are, whatever they say, they're betting that this guy's a nazir or not a nazir. But they have no clue. He looks like it. He might not be it. So the Gemara says, neither of them. Now, obviously, one of them has to be a nazir. Because this guy, this teenager over here, either he's a nazir or not a nazir. So one of them is going to have to be a nazir, right? Reuven says, if he's a nazir, I'll be a nazir. And the other guy says, if he's not a nazir, I'll be a nazir. So either he is or he isn't, and one of them has to be. The halacha is neither of them are. Why? It has to be clear at the time that they made the neder what's going on. It has to be hafla. And that's why it says ki hafli twice. Not to teach us that you could be mater neder, but to tell us that if they make a bet and they don't know what's going on at the time, they are not nazir. Even the Refuah, what does Refuah say? Asher nishbati ba'api hakosh baruch hu, it's like a petach. He swore when he was upset. Hachigah amar, d'machigah amar, ba'api nishbati v'lo yadranabi. Who told you that hakosh baruch hu took it back? Now, when I was learning the sugya, you remember that pshat that I like a lot? I say it a bunch of times that the dar in the midbar, not everybody died. Every year, 15,000 died, right? Everybody dug a grave, they all went in, and every year 15,000 died, but the final year, no. So it comes out that Hashem did break his shvuah. He had ataras and darim. No? If 15,000 people got to live, that means he didn't keep his nether all the way. So that's in fact the Taisvas in Bava Basra Daf Kuf Chaf Aleph. And there are two Tirus in Taisvas. Taisvas says either they all did die or they didn't die. So maybe it's based on this Gemara right here. I'm just throwing it out there. Not everybody holds. It could be that one Shita holds everybody died. So in other words, Hashem did not take it back. V'lo hadranabi, like this pshat, or like Rav said before, hadranabi. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu did take it back. Even the Rabbi Yitzchak. What does Rabbi Yitzchak says? Kol l'div boy. You have to have it in your heart. If it's not in your heart, you don't want it anymore. You don't have to be mekayim it. Maybe it's just to outdo Shmuel. That a person has to say the nether with his mouth. It's not enough to just think about it. You don't have to. You do have to take it out. You have to say it with your mouth. Even the Chananya ben Achi Rabbi Yeshua, what does he say? Chananya v'akayema. Nishbati v'akayema. But if he swears and he doesn't want to be mekayim, he doesn't have to. Don't look at the Rav Gidol Rav Dom Rav Gidol Rav. Benayin shenishbam l'kayim is hamitzvah. Shenemar nishbati v'akayema lishmor mishpatei tzidkecha. So there's the idea to make a shvuah that you're going to be mekayim mitzvah. Let's say someone has a hard time learning the daf. He says, I'm making a shvuah, I'm going to do the daf every day. Moreover here says, that's a good thing. They say that nowadays we shouldn't do it, we're not good at that. There's a question here, at the end of the day, we're mushba v'aymed. So why is he swearing? You mushba v'aymed from Har Sinai, everybody has a shvuah that they're going to be mekayim the Torah. What? That also, yeah, you mushba to learn Torah every day. So the disciple had a chap that on the tzad, what's happening? You don't want to do your mitzvah because you're saying that you're not chayiv to do it. Hashem only chayiv me to learn X amount a day. I don't have to learn that amount. So you're saying that you're not mushba. So that's why I'm making a shvuah on the tzad that I don't have a shvuah just for that. Okay, it's a little v'chap. If you don't understand it, we go weiter. Says the Gemara, Shmuel Leslie Pircha. But Shmuel, like he said, I don't have a good question on it, so that's the best way. This is a saying that people say. We actually had it, I don't remember, in Gila or somewhere. One seed from a hot pepper is spicier than a whole basket of melons and pumpkins. And Mamela, a smaller individual like Shmuel, who was an Amira, outdid all the greats of the previous generation. Says the Gemara, Hilchos Shabbos, Michtav Divan. There's a lot of Hilchos Shabbos in the Torah. Yeah, you guys know the Ma'aseh. I told you this Ma'aseh. I had a guy. We used to have a lot of non-religious Jews in our house for Shabbos. We had a guy that he was there for the whole Shabbos. So Friday night, Kiddush, and then the schnapps, beer, the whole thing. Then afterwards, I said, let's go to Shalom Zacher. So Shalom Zacher, he couldn't believe it. Says, more beer, more stuff. Next day, Nachamal. Shul's over, Kiddush. Go Kiddush. He drank up a storm, then he came to Suda again. Kiddush, I do Kiddush. And then this. So the guy goes, you remember the story? Yeah. He tells me after Shabbos, he says, I still can't figure out why you guys can't turn on lights. But one thing I understand, I know why you guys don't drive on Shabbos. Okay, fine. That's in the Torah. Share light. It says in the Torah. There's other things. So why does it say that it's a hair? His Shabbos is like this. It's on a hair. It's a lot of halach. It's not. It's in the Torah. So it's very interesting. Whoever learned Maseches Shabbos knows this Gemara inside out. But it's kedai to. We're just going to touch upon famous musagim in Maseches Shabbos for a moment, and then we go weiter. If a person digs a ditch on Shabbos, but he doesn't want the ditch, all he wants is sand, he wants dirt, he's potter. Kiman kirib Shimon. So real quickly, the famous machlokes of Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda on melacha shein tzrich legufa. If there's a dead body in a house, and obviously for obvious reasons he doesn't want it in the house, it's starting to smell, it's uncomfortable to be there with a dead body, so he takes him from the house, which is Rishus HaYachid, and brings in the body, he puts him in the main thoroughfare in the Rishus HaRabim. So that's melacha shein tzrich legufa. Why? He doesn't want the body in Rishus HaRabim. He just doesn't want a body in his house. If you take a tennis ball and you take it from Rishus HaYachid into Rishus HaRabim, you want the tennis ball in Rishus HaRabim so you can play catch with your friend. You want it there. Over here, he doesn't care. He would prefer that he didn't have to deal with this dead person at all. So he took him, he put him out. He doesn't want him in Rishus HaRabim. He just doesn't want him in the house. That's melacha shein tzrich legufa. So Mela, it's not that I want to make a hole in the ground. I just want dirt. So you're potter from the hole. So the Gemara, that's not a good sushtal. Afilu teimel Rabbi Yehuda. Hasam mitakin. Hacha mikalkalu. By the dead person, he's fixing something. Now his house smells good. He fixed the house. Hacha mikalkalu. So even Rabbi Yehuda, who argues in Rabbi Shimon, and says that if you take a dead person out from Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim, you're chayev. Over here, he might even say you're potter. You know why? Because one Meshugana opens up, breaks a few of the tiles in his dining room, and starts digging a hole. He ruined his house. He's a mekalkel. Mekalkelim are potter. All mekalkel on Shabbos, you're potter. You break something, you're potter. Might be aser, but potter. So, at the end of the day, this halacha is it's a halacha. It's a mountain. It's a huge halacha that I can take a dead person out and not be chayiv. That's kaharon matluim b'sara. But what's behind it? Says the Gemara. Meleches machsheves asra Torah, umeleches machsheves lo iksiva. This idea that on Shabbos it has to be a meleches machsheves, it has to be a machshava, it has to be a thought that you had intent. You had intent to make a hole. But this idea that has to be meleches machsheves is not in Shabbos. That's halacha in the Beis HaMikdash. We learn Shabbos from the Beis HaMikdash. So that's not a very serious source. And Memela, we consider it a mountain that's held by a string. Okay, now we're done with that. The whole Maseches Shabbos, we were busy with this, and now we touched it for a minute. Chagigah, and that's why this whole mission is in our Masechta, because of this. Michtav, I don't have it. I'm off. It's what's the Shabbos? Oh, we could do it. We could do about pay. You're right. Okay, you ready? Okay. We just turned to the Amud Beis, sponsored by Moshe Horn, in honor of Shui, Woody, and the Kale twins. And Moshe Kinsberg? Okay, hold on. By Moshe Kinsbergsky, in honor of Brian and Talia Edgar. Shkoyach. Okay. I feel bad for the new guy. The new guy's like, what is going on here? How's Woody, Chewy? These guys are nuts. It's a cult. I'm out of here. Never happened before, but the names are so interesting. And you put that mishigas in your video. You sent me a picture. I didn't know what it was. I see 2 pieces of kale. I didn't put it. Okay. And Woody, Chagigah is Michtav Sivan. It says in the Torah, Chag. We had all the psukim. I showed it 10 times. Chag, v'chagoisem. It has all these words in the Torah. Lo yitzricha l'kdomer le Rav Papa la'abaya. Memai dehaydi v'chagoisem oisach chag l'Hashem zvicha. Who told you the word v'chagoisem means to shecht? It means a carbon. Dilma chaygu chaga kol rachmana. Here, this is the best picture. I'm serious. I wasn't sure if I should even. It's a cover of a book. And Chagigah in Hebrew means a party. Also means to dance. Party in a bathtub. Okay, that's just to you. Who said it means a carbon? By the way, the Ar Chasidim that dance on Yontav, even though it's against halacha, I mean, for the most part, it's also to dance on Yontav. You're only allowed to dance on Simchas Torah. But they say because it says in the pasuk, the basic word, v'chagoisem means to dance. And Mela, they have some sort of heter to dance. I'm not pushing that halacha. I'm just telling you that they do it. V'chagoisem is a chag l'Hashem zvicha. Dilma choy chag k'amar. Elamata d'chsiv v'yichoy li b'midbar. Moshe Rabbeinu tells Paro, I'm going to the desert with all Klal Yisrael. What? They're going to go, they're partying? He's telling Paro, we're going to a party? Maybe, yeah. They're partying, they're about to be free. He's asking Paro to provide the oilais. Isn't the oila a carbon? And what's zvachim? Zvachim would be shlamim. Pay up, give us karbanos. It can't be a party. Says Gemara, no raya. Maybe what Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Paro is, we are going to have a party, and yes, you Paro, you're going to provide us with all the meat for the party. Says Gemara, Lina is a halacha that says that you're not allowed to leave over a carbon overnight. Depends what carbon. Sometimes it's 1 day in a night, sometimes it's 2 days in a night, but you can't leave it overnight. And it says in the pasuk, "V'lo chelev," you shouldn't leave the fat of the chagi, which would mean we're trying to prove that it means a carbon and not a party. Ad boiker. If you're telling me it means a party, tarba l'chagi is like this. By the way, our in-house shochet, Rabbi Weisfish from Manchester, he sent us a picture once of the fat. This is the fat that goes on the mizbeach. Some of it, different parts. Okay, so tarba, does a party, does a dance, whatever you want to call it, does it have fat? No. So obviously we're talking about a carbon. Maybe it means that the fat that comes in the time of a party, of a chag lo yolin, that you have to make sure that it doesn't go overnight. During the fat that comes from a yontav, it can't go overnight. What? This is only also a carbon. The fat of a carbon is only also when it's during yontav, not during the rest of the year. That can't be. So you can't leave it overnight. What if the Torah didn't say kol halayla biker? So then I would say only a carbon that you put the meat on the mizbeach, then you also have to put the fat on the mizbeach. But a carbon that you don't put the meat on the mizbeach, you're allowed to eat the meat, so maybe you don't have to put the fat on the mizbeach. But because the Torah says kol halayla biker, I say every time you have to put the fat on the mizbeach. Dilma says the Gemara, say it's not such a. Maybe the Torah is not coming to say. Maybe the Torah is coming to say that there's an asay, there's a mitzvah. It's a positive commandment, not just a negative commandment. Because if without this pasuk I would say it's only a positive commandment. Now the pasuk says that it's a negative commandment as well. The lav, because of krachina, I don't need a negative commandment. I already have a lav. So I have an asay, I have a lav, I have both. The dilma, so what if it says once before that you're not allowed to put it on? Maybe the Torah is coming to tell us a double lav in asay. Ella says the Gemara, asay midbar. The bottom line is the word chag means a carbon. How do I know it? From Zera Shava. It says Bamidbar over there, it says Bamidbar over here. Malan zvachim, Afkan zvachim, just like over there it means it was a real animal, it wasn't a party, it was a carbon, so too by us. So therefore, if it's Zera Shava, why are you telling me that it's a mountain hanging by a thread? It's Zera Shava. There's hardly any, besides a real pasuk, there's nothing stronger than Zera Shava. Zera Shava is the strongest, that comes straight from Moshe Rabbeinu, no jokes, no, we made it up, no, it's not a kavachaymer, it's Zera Shava, it's the strongest thing. The retirement of the Kabbalah loyal finon. This pasuk that you're telling me, where is that pasuk? It was in Amois, but it said we had it before. Yeah, but I forgot where it is. Okay, anyways, it says. Yeah, but where is it? I know it's in Amos, but I don't know where it is. The words. What are the words? Tell me the words. Oh. Hazvachim 2 lines up. Hazvachim it's a question mark. We had it earlier. Did you bring me anything in the midbar? You didn't bring me any zvachim. The Gemara says, well, we did, and then we said then it was the Levim. Fine. But that's a pasuk in Amos, and that's Kabbalah. In other words, it's not in the Torah, it's in Tanakh. It's in Nach, not in Torah. So Memela, that's why it's halachas that are hanging by a thread, by a hair. Milos. That you can't use something from the Beis Hamikdash. And if you do, you have to bring a carbon, you have to give a fifth. Michtav Ksivan, it says Mefurish in the Torah. I'll tell you which halacha we don't have Mefurish. This is a fascinating halacha. If you are the sender, you send a messenger to do something for you when it comes to Me'ilah. You tell the guy, I'm paying you $10, go to the Beis Hamikdash, grab something over there and bring it back here. Who's chayav? So in all of the Torah, you tell somebody, here's $10, go kill somebody. Obviously, the killer, he's chayav, the guy that sent gets 0. In America, it's a little different. You go to jail also if you send somebody. Not in the Torah. Ein shliach l'dvar avera. But when it comes to Me'ilah is different. If I tell you to go be Mayal, you can be Mayal. You're over, and the guy sending, he gets the Avera. And we're going to talk about it. The sender, he's the one that's over on the Avera. And he has to bring a carbon. He has to bring the fifth. If the messenger didn't do what he was told, let's say the sender said, go get me bread. And instead, he got him gold. So the shliach is chayiv. Shliach mal. Why is the sender chayiv? Where do we find in the whole Torah that Shimon does an avera and Reuven is chayiv on that avera? Oh, that's what we mean. It's such an interesting, fascinating halacha that it's like a mountain that's hanging by your hair. Amarava my kushya. I don't understand the question. Here we have another Zera Shava, the word chet, and we learn from Truma. Now what? I could tell you, if I tell you put on tefillin for me, am I yaitze? No. But if I tell you take Truma from my fruit, I'm yaitze. It's a special chiddush by Truma. Because of this Zera Shava, I learn that by Me'ilah also, I have a shliach, and that shliach, whatever he does, I'm chayiv, and that's hararim hatluim besara. So what's the kash? Listen to this halacha. If I send the guy out and I say, go to that house and grab something over there, and then, so if he goes and grabs it, who's chayiv? The sender. What if the sender realizes halfway through, and he doesn't have a cell phone in those days. So that house is Mila. That house is by the Beis Hamikdash. I forgot. I put the Beis Hamikdash stuff over there. I meant to tell him to go somewhere else. So since he knows and he's amazed, it doesn't go back to the sender. You know who gets the Aver now? The Shliach. The messenger gets it. But the Shliach never even knew about it. He had no clue. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know who owns what. He's doing what he was told to do. He gets an avera. He has to pay. It's a shagig. He has to pay. He has to do the animal, pay a fifth. Unbelievable chiddush. What if, listen to this, Rabbi Yisai. What if he goes, let's say, to a store, takes money, the messenger gives him money, says, go buy something. So if the sender realized before, the shliach gets the avera. What if the shliach realized, wait a minute, oh, this looks familiar, that's from the pile, this is hegdish money. And he gives it to the store owner, you know who's chayev? The store owner. Without him knowing. It's dangerous to be a store owner. Crazy chiddush. Nizka balabayis, nizka shliach mal. Says the Gemara, shliach hanya bekorov. What did he do wrong? He had no idea. Why would he be chayev? Hainu, you're right. He shouldn't be chayev logically. Hainu, karor matluim b'sara. That's why it's such a tremendous halacha that we only know it based on a hair. Omer Avashi, my kushya. Any guy in the world that goes into a hegdish place or he has a box of hegdish somewhere and he takes money out, he had no idea. If he had an idea, he's not moil. Why? He's mazid. Doing it on purpose is never mi'ilah. You don't have to bring a carbon if you do it on purpose. The carbon is only for someone that did it by accident. So on any person that does it by accident, say, well, he didn't know. You're right, he didn't know. So why is the messenger such a big chiddush? He didn't know. No one knows. When the original guy puts his hand in a box of money, takes the money, and he buys something with it, and he thought it's his own money. He's a shagig, and he has to bring a carbon. So the messenger also, he had no idea. What? We're going to see tomorrow, svara, that there's a big difference. Because you should have known that you have a box of this and a box of that. So yes, you're a little bit, you didn't know, but you had a way to know. You should have paid more attention. But this poor messenger, he had zero way to know. Okay. Not 11 kaira shel hegdish. A person takes a big, large beam or a stone from hegdish. Harei zeloimal. In order to be mile, you have to use it, you have to bend it, you have to shape it, you have to do something. Just taking something from the Beis Hamikdash, you're not chayev yet. Unbelievable chiddush. Nosson Breskin, he just gives it to another guy. Now, that guy received the gift. By him receiving the gift, he made a kinyan in it, and he removed it from the possession from the ownership of hegdish. Humal v'chaver le'mal. The guy that removed the beam, he committed mi'ilah. Says the Gemara, Michli mishkol shakla, mali hu, mali chavera. What is the difference if you put another person in the picture? When he removed it out of the Beis Hamikdash, a big giant beam, he comes flying out of the Beis Hamikdash with a beam on his shoulder, potter. If he gives it to his friend, now he's chayiv. What's the difference? He removed it from the Beis Hamikdash. Who cares? You're right. It doesn't make sense logically. That's a mountain that's hanging by a thread. As the Gemara, my kushya, maybe it's a guy that he's in charge of the Beis Hamikdash. He's in charge. That's why he has beams. It doesn't matter if it's in Borough Park, wherever it is. It's part of the Beis Hamikdash because he's in charge of it. Okay, so we'll stop right over here. Tomorrow's a new sugya. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful week. Welcome to all the guests.